Hello, dear viewer, and thank you for joining me on day 19 of reading the Bible together. Today we are reading Genesis chapter 38 and 39 from the Old Testament, as well as Matthew chapter 12, verse 38 to 50 from the New Testament. Let's start. Genesis chapter 38. Judah and Tamar. About that time, Judah left his brothers and went to stay with a man named Hira, who was from the town of Adullam. There Judah met a young Canaanite woman, whose father was named Shua. He married her, and she bore him a son, whom he named She became pregnant again, and bore another son, and named him Onan. Again she had a son, and named him Shelah. Judah was at Achzib when the boy was born. For his first son Judah got a wife whose name was Tamar. Er's conduct was evil, and it displeased the Lord, so the Lord killed him. Then Judah said to Er's brother Onan, "Go and sleep with your brother's widow. Fulfill your obligation to her as your husband's brother, so that your brother may have descendants." But Onan knew that the children would not belong to him, so when he had intercourse with his brother's widow, he let the semen spill on the ground, so that there would be no children for his brother. What he did displeased the Lord, and the Lord killed him also. Then Judah said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, "Return to your father's house and remain a widow until my son Shelah grows up." He said this because he was afraid that Shelah would be killed as his brothers had been. So Tamar went back home. After some time, Judah's wife died. When he had finished the time of mourning, he and his friend Hira of Adullam went to Timnah, where his sheep were being sheared. Someone told Tamar that her father-in-law was going to Timnah to shear his sheep. So she changed from the widow's clothes she had been wearing, covered her face with a veil, and sat down at the entrance to Enaim, a town on the road to Timnah. As she well knew, Judah's younger son Shelah was now grown up, and yet she had not been given to him in marriage. When Judah saw her, he thought that she was a prostitute, because she had her face covered. He went over to her at the side of the road and said, "All right, how much do you charge?" He did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. She said, "What will you give me?" He answered, "I will send you a young goat from my flock." She said, "All right, if you will give me something to keep as a pledge until you send the goat." "What shall I give you as a pledge?" he asked. She answered, "Your seal with its cord and the walking stick you are carrying." He gave them to her. Then they had intercourse, and she became pregnant. Tamar went home, took off her veil, and put her widow's clothes back on. Judah sent his friend Hira to take the goat and get back from the woman the articles he had pledged, but Hira could not find her. He asked some men at Enaim, "Where is the prostitute who was here by the road?" "There has never been a prostitute here," they answered. He returned to Judah and said, "I couldn't find her. The men of the place said that there had never been a prostitute there." Judah said, "Let her keep the things. We don't want people to laugh at us. I did try to pay her, but you couldn't find her." About 3 months later, someone told Judah, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar has been acting like a whore, and now she is pregnant." Judah ordered, "Take her out and burn her to death." As she was being taken out, she sent word to her father-in-law, "I am pregnant by the man who owns these things. Look at them and see whose they are, this seal with its cord and this walking stick." Judah recognized them and said, "She is in the right. I have failed in my obligation to her. I should have given her to my son Shelah in marriage." And Judah never had intercourse with her again. When the time came for her to give birth, it was discovered that she was going to have twins. While she was in labor, one of them put out an arm. The midwife caught it and tied a red thread around it and said, "This one was born first." But he pulled his arm back, and his brother was born first. Then the midwife said, "So this is how you break your way out." So he was named Perez. Then his brother was born with the red thread on his arm, and he was named Zerah. Genesis chapter 39. Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Now the Ishmaelites had taken Joseph to Egypt and sold him to Potiphar, one of the king's officers, who was the captain of the palace guard. The Lord was with Joseph and made him successful. He lived in the house of his Egyptian master, who saw that the Lord was with Joseph and had made him successful in everything he did. Potiphar was pleased with him and made him his personal servant, so he put him in charge of his house and everything he owned. From then on, because of Joseph, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian and everything that he had in his house and in his fields. Potiphar turned over everything he had to the care of Joseph and did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Joseph was well built and good looking, and after a while his master's wife began to desire Joseph and asked him to go to bed with her. He refused and said to her, "Look, my master does not have to concern himself with anything in the house because I am here. He has put me in charge of everything he has. I have as much authority in this house as he has, and he has not kept back anything from me except you. How then could I do such an immoral thing and sin against God?" Although she asked Joseph day after day, he would not go to bed with her. But one day, when Joseph went into the house to do his work, none of the house servants was there. She caught him by his robe and said, "Come to bed with me." But he escaped and ran outside, leaving his robe in her hand. When she saw that he had left his robe and had run out of the house, she called to her house servants and said, "Look at this. This Hebrew that my husband brought to the house is insulting us. He came into my room and tried to rape me, but I screamed as loud as I could. When he heard the scream, he ran outside, leaving his robe beside me." She kept his robe with her until Joseph's master came home. Then she told him the same story. "That Hebrew slave that you brought here came into my room and insulted me, but when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving his robe beside me." Joseph's master was furious and had Joseph arrested and put in the prison where the king's prisoners were kept, and there he stayed. But the Lord was with Joseph and blessed him, so that the jailer was pleased with him. He put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and made him responsible for everything that was done in the prison. The jailer did not have to look after anything for which Joseph was responsible, because the Lord was with Joseph and made him succeed in everything he did. Please feel free to pause the video here for time to reflect on what we have read. Let's continue. Matthew chapter 12 verse 38 to 50. The demand for a miracle. Then some teachers of the law and some Pharisees spoke up. "Teacher," they said, "we want to see you perform a miracle." "How evil and godless are the people of this day," Jesus exclaimed. "You ask me for a miracle? No, the only miracle you will be given is the miracle of the prophet Jonah. In the same way that Jonah spent 3 days and nights in the big fish, so will the Son of Man spend 3 days and nights in the depths of the earth. On the judgment day, the people of Nineveh will stand up and accuse you, because they turned from their sins when they heard Jonah preach. And I tell you that there is something here greater than Jonah. On the judgment day, the Queen of Sheba will stand up and accuse you, because she traveled all the way from her country to listen to King Solomon's wise teaching. And I assure you that there is something here greater than Solomon." The return of the evil spirit. When an evil spirit goes out of a person, it travels over dry country looking for a place to rest. If it can't find one, it says to itself, "I will go back to my house." So it goes back and finds the house empty, clean, and all fixed up. Then it goes out and brings along 7 other spirits even worse than itself. and they come and live there. So when it is all over, that person is in worse shape than at the beginning. This is what will happen to the evil people of this day. Jesus' mother and brothers. Jesus was still talking to the people when his mother and brothers arrived. They stood outside asking to speak with him. So one of the people there said to him, "Look, your mother and brothers are standing outside, and they want to speak to you." Jesus answered, "Who is my mother? Who are my brothers?" Then he pointed to his disciples and said, "Look, here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does what my Father in heaven wants is my brother, my sister, and my mother." Please feel free to pause the video here for time to reflect on what we have read. That's it for today, and I hope that you'll join me in the next video. Wishing you a graceful morning, day, or evening.